based on the needs of the district.
So, Mr. Hiller, with the district goals, then that would be part of what our LCAP. That's our LCAP.
Yes. Yes, it would align with the LCAP and then the school site plans locally at the school level.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And I wrote some notes in here when I was on the plane. I want to make sure that I cover this as well. This is not an input-output thing, right? Like, this is a human endeavor. We should recognize that as well, that we're going to fall short at times in our goals, in our data. We're going to miss the mark, and we're going to exceed it. So let's celebrate the heck out of that. But it's a human endeavor, and Mr. Heller and I were talking. It was like, yeah, we're not building widgets here, right? Like, we've got people's kids that are coming to our schools, sitting down in desks, and we're working with them. And there's a lot that we can't control, but we're not making excuses for that. But it is a variable in the end result. Fair? Structures for teams. There's board placement. There's a place for the board in that we're talking about district calendar structure. We also have expectations, as we were talking about 2 slides ago, I guess, with helping teams function efficiently and meaningfully. I apologize. It is a preposition. It feels like it is, right? That's embarrassing. Sorry. But a common understanding of what collaboration means. And that's part of helping with that structure for teams. So you kind of know what to look for and listen for, what questions to ask as a board when you're having conversation about the work of collaborative teams. Really, really small. I've broken this down. This is our this is the Carlisle Professional Development Calendar. Again, and I've said it and I'll reiterate it, I fully support all buildings getting out early to be able to use that time for teachers. So we've done that for about 10 years now. We get out at 1:30 every Wednesday. Typically we get out at 3:20. Teacher time ends, contract time ends around 3:45. So buses run at 1:30. And then PD starts around 2 o'clock for all teachers. That's instructional time that you're losing. That was a conversation we had to have, and we talked about it around the district admin table. When we were really, really green in the PLC process, what we came to was this time is going to be used so that teachers can hone their skills and practices. They can talk about students and talk about teaching and learning so that they can better serve students when they're here. It's really, really important. And now it's a point in time that we don't give it up. We had 9 kids, actually this year we did. We had 9 kids go to the state wrestling meet, and so they started at like noon, and it was on a Wednesday, and so our superintendent said, if you want to go watch these kids wrestle, you can go watch the kids wrestle. I was like, wait a minute, no, it's collaborative team time. That's not what we do. But otherwise, it's really, really vital. It's super important. So if we also zoom in a little bit, all Wednesdays, it's color-coded based on the type of team meeting that is going to be there. It's color-coded based on teams and then like the groups of staff members as well. So what all those colors mean are the groups that are in the left column. So blue days, that's full PD. So that's district PD on those days. We do have teacher prep time. We do provide teachers with prep time. Everybody gets 50 minutes or so. The turquoise days, and I can share this with you as well, Laura, if you, okay. Yeah, or Chris can. The turquoise days, vertical days, right? So that's where our vertical teams, all K-12 vertical teams, SPAD intervention tag, will meet during those, 8 Wednesdays. And they're going to align their curriculum. They're going to talk about assessments. They're going to talk about student data. They're going to talk, and it's the K-12 math, or the K-12 PE team, right? So they're identifying skills, K-2, K-3, 4-5, 6-8, and then they go together and talk about it K-12.
This would be a very easy modification to make in our calendar to add these days and color code them should the change go through with the schedule.
And this is team developed, district admin team developed. Board role, we go back to, okay, what are we doing here? Board role is understanding it, asking questions about it, and then, having a good grasp of why we are meeting, who's meeting, so that when you get asked a question, you can be able to have a coherent response to that, right?
I guess now's the time to, you are aware that we have something at RLS in the high school for, called Access?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I'm curious how you balance Access, which is non-instructional time, so it's student time, and adding in more non-teaching time. I guess I'm preemptively ready for the, why
Sure.
are you adding more early release for I know Access is not early release. Why are you adding more non-teaching time? And I just wanted to have that conversation.
Sure. Isn't
because-
access intervention instructional time?
Yes.
Okay,
It's
so
instructional.
Instructional intervention extension. Yeah, it counts as instructional time.
right. I mean,
It
the
does.
kids
But
are
I apologize if that was a misunderstanding.
right. Kids are at school. Some kids are at school. Most kids, but it's
I guess I guess maybe I would wonder if it would transition at some time if you're doing the PLC work well. Is the access time go away over time? I'm just actually curious. Maybe both are needed, but
yeah, fair.
I think that's why Brandon was bringing up RTI. You can't do PLCs unless you have RTI, because if you're discussing how do we mitigate academic deficiencies or how do we extend learning, there has to be a time and place to do it, and that's where access would be. I don't know when we're giving our bell
sorry,
schedule presentation.
I lost. What's RTI?
Oh, response to intervention. That's when you go in and sorry.
You're doing so well, Sean.
Yeah. But you can't do one without the other. So we need some type of intervention time, and that's what access.
So access is intervention time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's targeted for students that are not at standard?
It would be both. Yeah.
So that's their time. Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
So-
sorry.
So RLS has had access, and I don't need to tell you that. You've all known that. So this year it was changed to fulfill the need that Mr. Cinto was talking about. So though based on common formative assessments or just formative assessments throughout the school day and then throughout the period, a teacher can make moves within the class period to reteach or to revisit a concept or extend a concept. Access is intentional time every week where teachers make decisions based on data to send students, whether it be enrichment, which is growing, that piece is new, so teachers are spending their prep time developing extension lessons that are standards based, as well as intervention. So I would say that one of the most fundamental components of the PLC is having that protected time to go back and reteach or attempt a different instructional strategy for those students. So it is instructional time. I think I'll stop there.
Yeah.
And make sure
That's
unless
good.
there was something.
Can I get a clarification, because it's been a while since having kids in the, so if, it used to be, was that somebody would be recommended for access time. If a student, is everybody assigned a space? So there's still a potential that if a student is beyond proficient and it's access, they don't have to go anywhere.
Not
Okay,
Right.
Okay.
not at RLS.
It's,
right.
it's different at the two sites.
okay, just so that I'm clear on.
Yep.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
At the high school, at the RLS, because I have a child there, they're assigned to go to a classroom. And then at the high school, Mr. Cento, right, it's study hall for kids who are not assigned to work with a teacher.
Right.
They have to stay on campus.
And that is for an hour and,
Yeah, so in the, right now it's
a
102
dr-
minutes.
okay.
It's gonna change.
Yeah.
Like, as you'll see in our schedule
Yeah.
presentation, it's gonna be less.
That's good conversation to be able to have. I think, we want to make sure we have clarity on that.
Right.
Intervention is absolutely paramount. Extension is absolutely paramount in ensuring that we are practicing the principles of professional learning communities. So is collaboration, and that collaborative team time is paramount as well. The structures are in place, and we kind of got down into it as far as the practices, and I get that. But you got to have those structures in place, and if they likely will change. We've gone through multiple iterations of intervention time because our teachers are practicing differently. Now they're practicing in front of each other during their collaborative team time and talking about best practice because they have that time available to them. So this is the what of our PD calendar as well. It's in line with our district calendar, and it is published with our district calendar. Our teachers know it, our community knows it, so that it's out there so that everybody can see the work that's going on. And then it's measured from the district side, from the district admin and building principal side. We look at our end results of those times as well.
Can you? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Could you just clarify? I don't think I really understand the difference. Blue days, full day professional to building professional, between the blue and the brown. What?
Sure. So
What
there are
do those
full day PD days throughout the school year that are district wide. So right now, for instance, our work is through high reliability schools and Robert Marzano's instructional practices. Doesn't matter to you, but that's the focus for our district. So PK-12, all teachers are working on instructional strategies based on that model. So then we come together as an entire staff to provide PD for that, led by staff or instructional coaches or me or our building principals, et cetera. The building PD days, those are still focused on a team goal or focused on a school goal, but it's more highly focused on the needs of the teachers in that building. So it could be focused on elementary, I think elementary, it could be focused on reading instruction or curriculum rollout, understanding how they're utilizing their math curriculum resources.
And are those non-student days? These are
Or-
like teacher
yes.
work days, is what
Well,
we called them.
So
years
like
ago.
a lot of those are Wednesdays during that 1:30 time. The full days would be non-student days, but the brown days, those are 1:30 dismissals. Okay. Yep, good questions. You were right. Okay, so here we go. we've got quite a bit, but I don't want to take all your evening. Establishing a written plan. We can all look really busy and look like we're doing things, but we have to make sure that what we're doing has meaning to the work for ensuring all students learn at high levels. That's the illusion of motion. I have days where I run around my office and it looks like I'm super busy, but I'm at the end of the day, like, what did I do to answer the 4 questions? Not a lot, right? So we just have to be aware of the illusion of motion and know that a plan is a proclamation. That plan should be revisited. That plan should be revised. If a building creates a plan, it needs to be revised, either accelerated or slowed down based on the data. And then we can establish, and this is some of the work we're going to be doing tomorrow as well, right, Mr. Heller, as far as like the looking at what this could look like 3 years, 5 years down the road. That's going to be really important work for us. So that, and what's unique about St. Helena is that Rebecca's in year 8, right? The primary school is in year 8. So they look really different than where Ben's school is at year 0, right? And that's fine. That's where we are. There's nothing wrong with that. That's where we are. There's just a large gap there. So we're trying to meet everybody's needs at the same time. Like a classroom. Here's a quick excerpt from goals from my district. These are actually Vision 2020 goals were the ones that I pulled. The last bullet. So these were board created with district admin support and guidance. All members of the learning community commit to collaborative practices that ensure continuous improvement and progress, right? Like you could cut and paste these puppies, and anybody that's working as a PLC would have that as a goal. Big one here. From experience, things can get sideways in this work when there's a hyper focus on data, and it comes from a place of misintent. And I don't know very much at all about what exactly or how this. I know that there are end of year summits, data summits that get presented. Or mid-year, okay. But this is all data from the board lens, from the board level, that would be that's appropriate to be able to analyze, to look at, have presentation over to understand what this data looks like. Your building teams should be looking at this data as well as appropriate. That doesn't mean that the math team needs to look at attendance rates, but there should be a team that looks at attendance rates in the district. I also I look at a lot of these, and you're thinking, okay, high school, right? And that's not. Well, that's sort of it is the case. I'm not, except for attendance rates, like that's every building, but that data does not rest solely on St. Helena High School. And that's really important to remember, right? That if we have a 90% grad rate, which I'm sure blows that out of the water, that we're higher than that, but that's not just a high school issue. That's a K-12 system issue that we would have to address. And that brings it back to that idea of all means all. Every single kid. And we all own all of them. It's all our data. And the board has a responsibility too to be able to kind of look at it from that lens, from a 10,000-foot view of that data, knowing that it's all about the system versus one building or et cetera. Subgroup, historically underserved student test data. I have a school improvement plan document there as an example that we're not going to go through. Intervention data, growth data. I would not, you meet once a month, right? Once a month. I don't know your frequency of looking at data. We look at data August, mid-year, end of year. A lot of times we look at our student assessment data. It's sort of like autopsy data, right? Because it depends on when the state gives it back to us. And then we look at it, and those kids have already gone through the system. So there's not a whole lot we can do with that data, but we still need to present on it because we're held accountable to it, right? But that's a conversation about what's the most important data. It's not all the most important data. That's something, I don't know if it was DeFore or who, but DRIP, right? Like data rich and information poor. We have to be careful not to just gather every single piece of data that we have and then we don't know what to do with any of it. We need to be really strategic about what's the most important pieces and then move forward from there.
So when you say at your district, you look at data, I think you said 3 times a year.
More or less, yeah.
What data are you referring to? Because this list?
Mm-hmm.
So where would you see the, I guess, what your equivalent of the map data is?
I don't know that it'd be like FAST. So I don't know that we present FAST data to our board.
That's what I'm curious about.
I don't think
So
I
in the
can't
middle
think
of
that
the
we- I
year,
don't
what
think that we do.
what can you look at in here? I guess attendance rates, AP data, high school, Lucky High School. School improvement plan is by school, and then intervention data.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
may look
that's
at-
growth, I guess. Would
Yes.
that be the measure of
like growth data. Yep. And we would pull, I could go to our board agenda.
No, that's
we will pull I'm thinking elementary again, our reading assessment. So we give the Fontes and Pinnell guided reading assessment. And so we'll look at that. So we can talk about what kids moved from A to F by the end of the school year. So that's a 3 times per year assessment that we use so that we can ensure that our kids are on level. That's important data to our teachers. So it becomes important data to our board.
Okay, thank you.
Wait, just to clarify, so the school board is getting to see all of this data 3 times a year? Okay, thanks.
Or thereabouts. I mean, we don't look at attendance rate 3 times a year. We may look at that at the end of the year.
For PLCs, which ones are the most important that you think the school board should be paying attention to 3 times a year to support the PLC work?
I would want to know 3 times a year. I would want to know your big assessment data. So long as, with a caveat,
So
here,
biggest, so our maps,
like your whatever
currently.
your right.
Okay.
If that's with the caveat that if that data, like we have to make sure that that data is important to everybody and that has value and makes a difference. If there are other, I think having that conversation with your district admin team as well is going to be really important to know exactly. I think that's a more local question to answer.
Okay.
You want proficiency data. You want to see, so what data is going to help us know that our kids are growing? It should be based on your district goals, based on the school goals.
Absolutely.
I like the SIP Summit because then you've got your school improvement plan. I know when I wrote one as a building principal, it went on the shelf and I never looked at it again.
Right.
So if we're going to make those mean something, then, but again, I don't want to get anybody. Yeah.
No, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got just a couple of minutes here. I want to make sure, please celebrate. Celebrate your staff. Celebrate the work of your teams. I want to make sure that we bring that back again. You have really good people here who care a ton, who work really hard. Celebrate your people because they're doing a good job and they care about students, all kids. So and it doesn't necessarily just mean a teacher of the month and that type of thing. It comes also back to making sure that we have the right stories about our staff and that we're telling the right things in the community as well about the work that we're doing. Don't forget to celebrate your people. So we were going to look at that, but we're not going to. I have an overview here as well as far as the current reality of our buildings. Some of the work that we were able to do at each building. Again, I use a survey, a quick survey, 3 questions like what did I know, after I meet with a group of people. What did I thought I knew, now I know for sure, what I'm not quite sure about, and yeah, I'm really concerned because this is a big big rock for me that's going to be a problem. Some of the stuff that we're talking about, like going from the high school as an example, like what's a PLC? What are the 4 questions? Like we didn't know. And now we're talking about ensuring that we have common plan, common time to collaborate. That is a humongous step. It's a humongous step. Okay, so next steps for our board. I want you to sort of think through, if you would, what do you think that could be? I already wrote keep learning, right? Like we've got to keep learning about the work. What else, if we're going to help our buildings function at high levels, because that's what our why is, what is it that we need to do to ensure that why happens?
Well, there's a lot of buy-in that I want to have with this. You know, when I think about buying a car, I don't look at a picture and read the specs and buy the car. I get into the car and I test drive it and do a lot of other things. And I really appreciated from chapter 1 when I was reading about requirements of board members to PLC success, and how they were saying members of the school board and superintendent team also attended collaborative teacher team meetings as observers, watched videos, etc. And in order, again, for me to have more buy-in, I need to see what's going on at the ground level. So I can understand this more, and I appreciate that you say keep learning, because I need to continue to see it with my own eyes at all the steps. At the primary steps of 8 years, at the beginning steps at the high school. And again, what's really, really important to the principals is that it's not a gotcha moment. It really is wanting to understand and learn and be a part of the school teams. You know, if we decide to shorten, you know, to take more time out of the week for PLCs, I really have to have that understanding and that buy-in. So I would appreciate support from other board members to know that I'm not getting in the weeds, but I want to go and observe and see this work happening. I mean, this is the direction we're going in, and we need to all be well-read and well-educated if that's the direction it's going in. So again, really felt great about seeing that in chapter 1 about the board members just taking more action and being part of the process and the team.
Can I offer a word of caution?
Of course.
Because I can walk away, but my experience has been, so long as, you know, and we're having the conversation with building principals about that it's not a gotcha. Being on the board has a certain connotation or level, right? And so long as teachers also understand that, and it's done from a place of support and genuine. And I'm not saying you're not. I'm not accusing you of anything, right? I have seen where it hasn't been. And whether it was meant to be or not, that's the feeling from teachers. It ended up making it kind of go backwards instead of forward.
How is, okay, I hear you.
Yep.
But also reading this, and we have had an opportunity at the primary school one time to sit and observe. And again, what I'm reading here is observers.
Yep.
Not participants.
Right.
So I think that the principals could help educate the teachers and make that
Sure.
very clear for them,
You bet.
our role of coming in as wanting to learn and observe and not judge.
Yeah.
Just,
I think it could be really, really healthy. Our board doesn't do that, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I mean, it was here. Just, I want to make sure that you see, like, from the full scope of
so then how does your board, that feels like a blind support for something then. How do they fully support this without getting
Sure.
to observe it at all and make really important decisions about scheduling and about what they are requiring to see if they don't learn the process?
Sure.
that's so hard for me to be able to give direction of something that I don't know much about.
Yeah,
That-
that like blind, right?
Yeah, that just feels very irresponsible.
Our I haven't thought about this. Our board is unique, 5-member board. 3 of the board members are spouses of teachers who work in our district.
Lucky. There's your answer.
That makes a difference.
That's very unusual.
Yeah.
For a school board.
Yeah, and it started, well, anyway, so and it's not a bad thing. It's super healthy for us. We're good. Everything's fine with that. Nobody has a problem. It's just weird when they have to vote and only 4 of them show up, or right? Like, also, the board learning looked a little bit different. We went through a study group, and it was over the course of time that we continued to go chapter by chapter in learning and things like that. So, I don't think that I can't speak for our board, but I don't think that anybody would say that they don't have a good understanding of the work and they just blindly trusted the admin team to do the work.
This is such an unusual time to get to be with all of you together like this in this special meeting. Please know that we are here to support
Right.
the school and for it to be the best it can be. So when we hopefully get an opportunity to come in and do more observing and learn and hear what you guys and gals really want, that, again, it's not a gotcha. It's a please educate me with this, because I know it's become so important for you, and other principals are using it and learning it. So again, it really is a team effort. I cannot stress that enough for our district in particular.
Build trust, continued support. Oh, sorry, Rebecca.
I don't know how to turn this. Is it on?
Yep.
Okay. There's no light showing. So I was just one thing I was thinking, just from my perspective, and probably the same for Carmen, because we have that time, and same for Andrew, we have that time built into our schedule for teachers to do PLCs. And every single Wednesday is an early release for our schools. And so those teachers are collaborating in their grade level teams every other Wednesday. The third Wednesday, we're doing curricular teams. So even just knowing that one of our schools and 2 can't do all of that collaboration, and 1 can't do any of it because they don't have that time built into their schedule. I just wanted to point that out, that it doesn't seem equitable that we would be, because we have that time during our day, and it's impossible to apparently to create that with the way that the high school is structured. And most districts, like if they have an early release date, it's the whole district. So it just doesn't seem, I'm just speaking to myself as the primary principal, like we have all this time for our teams to collaborate, but the other schools don't have as much time.
I was actually wondering, is that why the primary? You might be not the oldest, but the oldest tenured person here, or maybe Ben. Was that why the early release every week for the primary and elementary? Because of implementing PLCs? No? Okay.
It's been that way for,
Okay.
some time. I think it's only come to light, to Rebecca's point, if we want the collaboration to be TK-12 district-wide, then we need to take a look at the secondary schedules to align better. And to Brandon's point about the vertical articulation days, we have vertical articulation days in the district, but I think we can all say we don't vertically articulate. We use those days as staff development for our own sites. But if we are able to have all common time on Wednesday, we can have secondary opportunities, 612, to vertically articulate, TK5 opportunities to vertically articulate to be more in alignment, and then days where we do TK12 strands to where it's a district-wide alignment. So, in looking at the calendar for the future, that's one of the things we are talking about tomorrow, of what it may look like. It gives us more opportunity to really align everything we're doing as a district, where right now we have sites that are working by themselves and not really having an opportunity to connect with other sites about their work and aligning their standards. So it just feels like it's a better move for us in the future to really align the work that we're doing district-wide. And I'm sorry, Brandon, I'm taking over your
No, you're good.
presentation. I told you to stop.
That's perfectly fine.
I
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No. I said, I think what was interesting in reading that chapter is there's so much talk about the superintendent and the board of directors will do this, this, and this, almost a very hands-on. And in my short tenure, my understanding is we're not making the rules. We're listening. And so to me, it just seems like we have to make sure our principals feel comfortable and secure in keeping us updated. And if you want to say, hey, it's a disaster, I got 10 teachers who won't do anything. Yeah, I mean, that you guys can feel comfortable telling us your good points and your low points and let us know how we can help without us, getting in your classroom with you and helping you. And I think there needs to be a real sense of respect and understanding between the board and our principals, because you're on the front lines and we need to know from you what's happening.
Okay, so I was going to say that there's different ways to be hands-on and to really know what's happening. Artifacts will help you get that sense. I know that Sean's been to one of our staff meetings, and I would say I can see that being helpful once or maybe twice in a year, but we do really get into the weeds with teachers are vulnerable in those meetings, and we want them to be, right? We want them to challenge each other, to talk about their own craft and how they feel about it and where they are weak and might need to lean on a colleague in certain areas to beef up that section or whatever that is. And so so it does get a little bit I guess personal, yes. And so I would say that it sounds good if it's prepared right. You invite one of you over once, maybe twice a year, that would be fine. But we don't want to stunt that momentum. There's also videotaping. We could easily videotape sessions and things like that. That's good practice even for us to review, right? So there's other ways, and there's a combination. We could do a combination. There's 5 of you and only 4 of us, and so it would change the dynamic if there was one of you or more than one of you at every meeting. So that would be my recommendation, is for us to get creative and learn or come up with different ways to keep you informed, and so that you could see all the different things that we're doing, because we're excited about what we're doing. So we're fine with sharing. In fact, we're sharing with each other just tomorrow. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I want to clarify. I didn't mean every single meeting. And hey guys.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate, I was reading this as well, the videos and the artifacts would be really helpful, or if it would make more sense to come at a meeting at the beginning of the year before, while teachers are still, how they're setting up their classes and feeling out what they're doing. I mean, you can let us know which ones to attend to help us really understand how St. Helena Unified is getting involved with the program.
And
I'll make it. I'm still learning just to dive in. I still want to raise my hand at these meetings. As I kind of go about my 6, 7, 8 months here, St. Helena is such a special place, and it's also very unique in a way that, like, when that data comes out or is seen, it is very vulnerable, right? Those meetings are vulnerable, and then the data, whatever data, attendance data, whatever data it is, it's like, oh, that's that person, they're responsible for that. So it is a very, very vulnerable place. But I find myself writing those monthly board updates, and I want to geek out and tell you all about the PLC stuff, but it's all out of context, and that could be one medium where I could give you more update. Hey, this month, this is what we tried. But it would be, so what I would appreciate, what I find myself, and I hope I'm not stepping on, let me know if I've overstepped, but I would love to have sit downs without violating a Brown Act, like one of you or 2 of you to come in and just share with you where we're at. You've seen what year 8 or 9 looks like, hey, this is what year 2 looks like at a secondary school, which is vastly different than what you're going to see there. And it's been helpful just to talk it through with Dr. Amy or Ruben or Chris, just to, every time you say it, you realize something else too. So I'd be happy to do that if you wanted to reach out and if that's appropriate.
Yeah. So in the last 4 minutes, I just want Brandon to hit on this point right here, because it kind of ties that in.
It really does in terms of, and you guys thank you for popping in. It's good. As far as analyzing data, analyzing products, there's two different things, right? Like teachers are creating product, and that looks different. It could be a data team protocol. It could be an agenda that a collaborative team creates that has what happened in that meeting fairly detailed, noted in the agenda. And I was in Rebecca's, was it first grade? A long time ago now, in September, October. Awesome collaborative team agenda. Hit all the big questions of the 4 questions and the 3 principles, and that their data set was embedded and things like that. And it's really, really, really well done. It's year 8, right? I also went into Andrew's data team, and they're not showing student names with data right now with each other, and that's fine. We did the same thing. That's where they are with their team. But what you would be able to see is product. This is what a data team looks like. This is what a collaborative team meeting looks like. This is what it looks like when we break down our essentials so that we can have a guaranteed viable curriculum. These are our data team protocols, our building goals. This is what it looks like when we come together as a district leadership team and we analyze those products together. So when I say district leadership product analysis product, what I mean is that do you have a tool to analyze the products that your teams are building, so that we can, because building principles can't be in every collaborative team meeting. They can't. Too many things going on. But they should know what's going on in every collaborative team meeting. So that's where that product comes in, and it's really important. They could then, and I think this is sort of what you're talking about, right, Carmen? They could then share with you what those products are, what it would look like, why, and what the next steps might be. Does that make sense?
Because we want to be the champions of this.
Yeah.
It's a district-wide initiative.
Yep.
And we want to be the champions. We want to be able to, and just one little side note is that my experience of sitting with Mr. Heller at the primary school, watching the teachers talk, was the best thing. All we did was sit there and listen, but I was able to then effectively and confidently answer a parent who might say, well, they don't meet, they're not talking about all that. And I'm like, you're actually wrong. I've witnessed it and so it just helps us champion that the work is being done. It's not to micromanage, it's simply to champion and support. So would love to whenever we're invited, would be happy to be there.
I would just like to add, we are meeting as a leadership team tomorrow, and I think we are talking about our next steps and our rollout, and since next steps is up. And I think this feedback is wonderful for us to consider in ways that we can continue the dialogue to educate and inform the board, and knowing that Rebecca's progress is going to look a lot different than Ben's, but it's also great for the board to see Ben's starting point of where he's at. So in 2 years, in 5 years, in 8 years, we can see where the progress is. And 8 years from now, since everybody will still be on the board in 8 years, you could say, I can remember when the high school started this, we had this conversation, right? So, and I think that's the journey that we're all excited about. I mean, that's really re-energized my focus in education in a lot of ways, because this is the right work. This is the work we should have been doing all along. And I'm glad I found it. I'm glad we found it. And I'm glad we're doing this as a district together. And so I think this team, as we continue to have conversations about the work that is ahead of us, I appreciate all of your perspectives and your support of the administrators who are day-to-day working on this with their teams and making a vast difference. And so I'm I'll end on that, and I think I think we'll end on that. I think that's a high note. Good job, Brandon. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you to our principals as well. Thank
Yes.
for being here. And you will share this. Is this able to be shared with us?
I will have it up. I'll upload it to the board agenda.
Okay,
So it's
perfect.
for the public, and I
Okay.
will also send it to you individually
Okay.
on email.
Thank you very much. Okay, since we're a little bit over time here, so we're just going to wrap this up. Dr. Amy, thank you again very much for being here today. Is there a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are those opposed? Thank you. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned. 7. Oh my God, I'm so 7:16. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.